I pick up 7-6 suited in the big blind. Under the gun +1 raises to 40. Middle position player calls, the hijack calls, the button calls. I've got a playable hand and I'm getting a great price. I call for 30 more. We're going 5 ways to the flop out of position. The dealer puts out Jack 10-5, all diamonds. We flop a flush in a multi-way pot. I check to the pre-flop raiser. He checks. That's not good. The middle position player and the hijack check. I really don't want people to see any free cards. The button is a lifesaver. The dude bets 140. I have a big decision. I can either go for the check raise now, or I can call and go for it on the turn if another diamond doesn't come out. There are benefits and risks to doing either. I choose to stay patient. I just flat to set the trap. There's actually no guarantee that I even currently have the best hand. The players behind me fold. It's down to heads up. The turn is the 9 of clubs. If we were ahead before, we're still going to have the lead. I check. Let's see if the button wants to continue firing. He definitely does. He increases the sizing to 350. I have 12-10 total, and the opponent has me covered. Part of me is worried that I might be up against a better flush. If that's the case, that's just bad luck. I'm never folding. It's time to pull the trigger.
All in? He said all in.
I call. I got a big draw.
Call.
Once, twice, what do you want to do?
Let's go once. All right, gentlemen. We're on the board. Take care of the pot.
The opponent shows that he has ace-queen offsuit with the ace of diamonds. He has a combo draw, but a straight won't give him the winner. He's drawing to just a few outs. The dealer puts out the 7 of hearts to seal the victory for us. The first big hand of the session is a full double up. I haven't had a big win the last few times playing leading into today, so it feels great to take down a huge pot right off the bat. I'm immediately up 1,400. The claw picks me up and places me in the main game where I'm dealt ace-9 suited in the cutoff. It's my first hand here. I'm the new guy, but I'm not trying to make friends. I raise to 30. The button calls. The big blind calls. We're going 3 ways to the flop. It's 8-6-6 with 2 clubs. The big blind checks. I bet 40 with my flush draw, 2 overs, and a backdoor straight draw. No one's intimidated by that. The opponents both call. The turn is the 5 of clubs. We're making flushes all over the place today. I even pick up the straight flush draw to go along with my monster. The big blind doesn't believe in monsters. He leads into me in the button for 60. It seems like he's trying to get to showdown at a price that he sets, but this isn't his garage sale, this is Bellagio. I raised to 200. The button doesn't like being sandwiched in between us. He folds. The big blind is trying to haggle me down to 195, but I'm not budging. He folds as well. We win this last pot in 5-10 before we're called for the 10-20 game. I rack up to exchange my chips for some higher denomination ones. I'm already up over 1,500 on the day. It's nice to have a solid cushion in case things go poorly while I'm playing larger stakes. I add on for 2,000 more. I have 5,000 total in chips, but I'm only in for 3,500. We head up to the high stakes area to play with the big boys. In addition to the blinds, there's also a $20 big blind ante, so there's $50 in the pot before hands are even dealt. There are $100 bomb pots every dealer change, and the winner of those has to pay time for the entire table. It can get expensive if you don't win any of them. I lose a couple before I'm dealt pocket 10s in the small blind. The under the gun player straddled for 40. The hijack opens to 120. He's a very good player who's frequently in some of the highest stakes games in the world, including some in Macau. I call for 110 more. The big blind calls. The under the gun straddler also calls. We're going 4 ways to the flop out of position. There's already $500 in the middle. If you want to see me flop a set, hit the like button on the count of 3 for some extra run good. Ready? 1, 2, 3. The dealer puts out ace-10 with 2 spades. So many of you hit the like button that we've surpassed the set run good, and we've actually made it into full house territory. I check for deception. The big blind and under the gun straddler check. The hijack makes a small bet of 180. I really don't have much to worry about except potentially getting boat over boated. That's rare, and that'd be disgusting if that happened. I don't have to be worried about flushes or straights getting there. I want to keep those draws in if any of my opponents have one. I call. The big blind folds. Under the gun has something that you want to stick around with. He calls. It's down to 3 of us. The turn is the jack of spades. It's an interesting card. I'm losing to a royal flush, quad aces, ace jack, ace 10, and pocket jacks. Sounds like a lot of hands, but there really aren't that many combos of those. What's better is that the flush draws got there, and so did a straight draw. I check. Under the gun checks. The hijack thinks about firing, but he reins it in, and he also checks. I don't think that he's ever going to have me beat. The under the gun straddler was getting a good price pre-flop. He could have a variety of relatively strong but worse hands than mine. The river is the 3 of diamonds. It's a complete blank. The under the gun player has 1380 left in his stack. I mostly want to target his chips since the hijack may not have much that he can call a bet with anyway after checking back the previous street. I overbet the pot, putting 1500 in the middle. The under the gun player, who's going to have a ton of flush combinations, calls for less. The hijack appears to be a little upset as he lays his hand down. It's the moment of truth. I show my boat. It's no good. The opponent has ace-3 offsuit for a rivered full house. I guess that 3 of diamonds wasn't a complete blank after all. All of the air in my lungs has escaped with my profit on the day. I'm stuck 500 total, and I'm having flashbacks to the previous session of 10-20 I played when I flopped the king high flush and lost a huge all-in pot to a backdoor full house. I keep getting coolered when it matters most. It's tough to make big hands, and when they end up being second best, especially in a game of this size, it hurts badly. I'm not a robot. If you listen closely, you can hear me whisper my frustration. I'm not happy, but you know what always cheers me up? Rolled up aces over kings. For now, pocket aces will have to do. I'm in the hijack in what's currently a 7-handed game. The player on my right limps in for 20. He's probably the least skilled player at the table. It's either him or me. Might be a toss-up. I raise to 80. Under the gun +1 calls, we're heads up. The flop comes Jack 7-6 rainbow. The opponent checks. I'm going for value. I bet 100. That's a reasonable price. The player calls. The turn is the deuce of spades. It's as blank as it gets. It's check to me. My assumption about this particular player is that he doesn't like to fold much. If he has a jack or a draw of any sort, I don't think that he'll let it go, even if he's facing a larger bet. I make it 340. Under the gun +1 still likes his cards. He calls again. The river might be too good of a card. It's the ace of clubs. We river the nuts. Most of the time, this won't be a good card in terms of helping me get paid if my opponent has something like king jack or queen jack. It doesn't really matter if the opponent has a busted straight draw, and occasionally it'll be a good card since the ace of spades isn't accounted for. There's some small chance that under the gun +1 called with backdoor spades on the flop, called with a flush draw on the turn, a river top pair, or maybe somehow has 2 pair. He checks. It's going to be tough for me to get called on 3 streets by something worse than top pair. I target my opponent's strong hands, and I try to take advantage of what I perceive as his tendency to call light. I bet
900.
There's not much thought from my opponent. Before I even have time to get my chips out there, the opponent puts his cards in the muck. I imagine that he didn't have a pair. We win a decent pot, but we're still down a few hundred altogether on the day. Fortunately for us, we have a chance to get revenge on the man who doubled up through me earlier. Under the gun opens a 60. He's the culprit who boat overboated me. He obviously needs to be punished. The button calls. He's the opponent from the previous hand. I've got 9-8 offsuit in the small blind. Normally this is a fold. Playing these cards can't be good, but I'm pretty sure that these are the only 2 guys that I can beat at the table. And you've seen the revenge range chart. This is clearly a call based on that. I get in there for 50 more. The way I see it, if you're responsible for putting me in the hole, I can either come after you at the poker table or pretend my name is Randall Stevens and drain your bank accounts. That's a Shawshank Redemption reference. Remember, the warden puts him in the hole and he escapes. Never mind. We're going 3 ways to the flop out of position in a hand that we shouldn't be in. It comes 9-5-3 with 2 clubs. We've got top pair and some backdoor draws. I check. Under the gun checks. I doubt he even has a pair. The button also checks. He probably doesn't have a pair either. The turn is the king of spades, which could have easily connected with one or both players. I check. No check this time from the warden. The under the gun player. He bets 100. The button calls. This is a weird spot in which I might actually have the best hand. There are quite a few draws out there. Under the gun, it could just be betting because he knows the turn is good for his range, and I've checked twice. I don't really want to overcall. I put in the check raise to 400. I play sets and 2-pair hands the same way. I'm mostly repping a set of 9 since I can account for half of them. Under the gun folds, we partially get him back, which already makes me 90% happier than I was. The problem is that the guy who I told you probably calls too much is still in the hand. He calls for 300 more. Feels like he has a king and probably won't fold any amount that I bet on the river, or if I'm lucky, he has some kind of draw that he just can't get away from. The issue with that is that he most likely would have bet a flush draw on the flop, and he really shouldn't be calling check raises with straight draws on this board since he won't have many clean outs. The river is the deuce of diamonds, 6-4 and ace-4 get there. Other than that, it's a blank. I check, give up, then the button immediately bets
1,000.
The whole sequence of events strikes me as very odd. I really wasn't expecting a bet from the button after he checked back flop, just flatted the 100 on the turn, then flatted the 400 when he had a second chance to raise. All of a sudden a deuce comes out and he's betting the pot, plus he bets a nice round number with 0 hesitation. I'm looking at him to see if I can pick up any kind of extra read that'll put me on one side of the fence or another. Replaying the hand in my head to try and figure out the story that he's attempting to tell. I really don't think that he has it. I I think that a lot, and I'm often wrong though. I should have just folded pre-flop. If I call and I'm wrong, I'll have lost 1,500 in this hand for absolutely no reason. I feel like this is an easy fold, and I'm wasting everyone's time here with second pair like a clown. Something just doesn't seem right. A full minute goes by, I go with my gut, put in a calling chip, then immediately grab my cards expecting to throw them in the muck. Instead, the opponent says my favorite thing to hear at the poker table. The button shows Queen Jack offsuit. He called twice on the turn with a gutter, didn't get there, then tried to bluff me out of my shoes. I made the call of a hero, but played the hand like a fish. I guess I'm some combination of both. I'm Aquaman. It feels great to win a $3,000 pot in a speculative, non-standard way. That doesn't happen all that often on the vlog. After getting majorly coolered, I've come back to only be stuck 100 in this 10-20 game. Still, I'm up 1,400 on the day. After losing another bomb pot, I'm down a good chunk in 10-20, but luckily we did great in 5-10 to start, so I'm still up on the day. It's time to call it.